Now we are discussing this open model theories. So among the open model theories, we have human relation theory and also participative management and decision making theory of Simon. So in the human relation theory, the questions that can be asked would be like, human relation theory is an offshoot of the administrative management theory and mother of behavioral theories. So that is the dimension. So the human relation theory is offshoot of the classical theory and mother of behavioral theories. This is the question. So as an offshoot of the administrative management theory or classical theory, administrative management theory is also called the classical theory of Henry Fayol, Gullick and Urwick. So where you have to write about the human relation theory as a neoclassical theory. Administrative management theory is the classical theory, whereas human relation theory is the neoclassical. And it is also the foundation for the neo-human relation theory. So neo-human relation theory is the another name for the behavioralism. So here, how human relation theory is an offshoot of the administrative management theory. So where you have to make the comparison of similarities. How the human relation theory came out of the administrative management or classical theory. Because primarily both the theories are pro-managerial theories. The pro-managerialism implies that both are working for the management benefit. Offshoot means the outcome, the product. And both are pro-managerial and they are anti-labor unionism. See, human relation theory seems to be in favor of the labor community. But however, by eliminating the conflict between the labor and the management, labor unions will be eliminated. So this is called as the anti-labor unionism. And both adopted, classical theory and the human relation theory both have adopted the worker exploitation techniques. But the way of exploitation of the worker is different from the classical theory to human relation theory. In the classical theory, worker exploitation is based on the treating the man as an economic man, treating the worker as an economic man. While in the human relation theory, they adopted a cow psychology, not exploiting the worker directly through the economic man approach, but cow psychology is exploiting the worker with a socialistic orientation. And human relation theory never questioned the claims of administrative management theory, but has rectified the deficiencies of this theory. So therefore it is said that human relation theory is developed on the ashes of the classical theory. It is built upon the ashes of the classical theory. And second dimension is the human relation theory is the mother of behavioralism. The behavioral ideology came after the Second World War. Human relation theory was developed after the First World War. During the research in the American industries. And the uniqueness of the individual communication, participative decision making, similarly non-monetary motivation, informal matters, informal administration and democratic leadership. They are all the dimensions which are common between the human relation theory contributed to the behavioralism. Human relation theory is treating every individual as unique. And it is assuming the communication is all pervasive. All pervasive means it will be flowing top to down, bottom up, horizontally, diagonally, as well as informally as well. Informal communication will also be a part of the organization. Human relation theory in the bank wiring experiment proved that the decision making based on the participative approach is democratic oriented. And it also emphasized a point that people should be paid not only salary, but also given non-monetary motivation. And the informal matters. Informal, every organization along with the formal elements will also have the informal organization, informal communication, and informal relationships. This is a thing that the human relation theory has developed. And from these ideas emerges the democratic leadership. So the democratic leadership, all these aspects, treating every individual uniquely, multi-layered communication, informal communication, participative decision making, democratic management, informal relations, all these things are the contributions given to behavioralism by the human relation theory. Therefore, human relation theory is described as the mother of behavioralism. And so these aspects, these points should be explained in two dimensions, as prescribed by Mayo and as further analyzed by various behavioral thinkers. So how behavioralism in the ideas of Chester Bernard and in the ideas of Simon, how these people, Bernard, Simon and other behavioralists have proved that individual people are unique, decision making is participative, non-monetary motivation are elements. So all these things have to be prescribed from the Mayo's perspective as well as from the behavioralist point of view. So these things proves that human relation theory is built upon the ashes of the classical theory. That is as a offshoot of the classical theory, and it became the foundation for the edifice of the behavioralism. The edifice is the building, the constructed building. So the edifice of the behavioralism is based on the foundation of the human relation theory. So the second aspect for Bernard, the executive work involves the specialized work of maintaining the organization in operation. The executive is the most strategic factor in the organization. Comment is the question. So the hint of the question is you are supposed to write about the executive, the functions of the executive as defined by Bernard. And the key points to be discussed here is the executive has functions to be performed, which every function of the executive is not necessarily executive function. So it should be started with the introduction that in organizations, executive perform various functions that are necessary to ensure the coordination of the cooperative system. And what is the cooperative system? According to Bernard, cooperative system means organization. To keep the organization in operation, the executive is supposed to perform various functions. So they also act as channels of communication. So executive work involves actually the specialized work of maintaining the organization in activity, that is in operation. So the fundamental functions of the executive are maintaining the communication system, securing the essential services from the employees, that is making the employees to work, and formulation of the purpose of the organization. Formulation of the purpose means that is the goals of the organization. So, but however, it is to be understood that everything that is done by the executive is not necessarily executive work. For maintaining the organizational system, sometimes the executive is supposed to perform certain non-important activities, unimportant activities. So those unimportant activities, like suppose the Vice Chancellor is the chief executive of the university. And if the Vice Chancellor is taking a class for a postgraduate student, and that is not executive function, it is only a professional activity. So executive work involves only communicating the goals of the organization, both formally and informally. Second, securing the essential services from the employees of the organization, like motivating the employees and keeping the morale of the employees, and formulating the purpose of the organization. Only these three are the functions of the executive. So in the final analysis, you should say that executive functions are like those of the nervous system, the central nervous system, including the brain in relation to the rest of the body. So what the central nervous system will be doing with the body? It is coordinating the various organs of the body. The same things that the executive has to do. The rest of the, apart from these three, if anything is done by the executive, it is not a part of the executive work. It is just other activities, miscellaneous activities. And the third question, because the rationality of the decision makers is so limited by the human brain and organizational culture, decisions are rarely, if ever, optimal. If not optimal, then what they are? So this is the framing of the question. Because the rationality of the decision makers is so limited. Why rationality is limited? Because of the human brain. The thinking capacity of the brain is limited. So we think with a limited rationality. And it is not only restricted by the human brain, but also by the organizational culture. Organizational culture means the rules and regulations of the organization. An employee has to take the decisions within the scope of the organizational rules and regulations. You cannot think creatively to overcome the organizational rules and regulations. So our rationality is restricted by our thinking capacity, limited ability to think, and organizational rules and regulations, which is described as the organizational culture. So because of this limit to the rationality, what happens? Decisions are rarely optimal. Optimal means maximum benefited. So if they are not optimal, then what they are? So we cannot get the maximum optimization of the decision making. So we have a limited ability to make the decisions with rationality. Limited ability to make the rational decisions. So you have to prove that decisions in the organizations are not fully optimal. They are only satisfying decisions. Not satisfactory decisions, only satisfying. So in the introduction, you should talk about the human decision making is being characterized by the minimum rationality, limited rationality. So as a result, human decisions becomes less than logical. And the rationality of the decision making is limited for various reasons, like limited capacity of the brain to analyze the things. Then heuristic thinking. Heuristic thinking means thinking based on the past experiences is the heuristic thinking. And decision making on the perception of status quo. Status quo means perception of status quo means thinking that the things will not change. Things will be static forever. Is the status quo nature. And favor for the protection against the losses. We don't take the decisions in a revolutionary manner because we think that in any reform, any change, any revolution would affect the existing status quo. And preference for the stability. And that is, we prefer to have the stable things rather than continuously changing the things. Then emotions, desire for work, quick results, stress, groupthink phenomena. So the groupthink phenomena means just because the rest of the members in the group are taking the decisions, we take the decisions accordingly. So these factors make the decisions minimally rational or limited rational. So this condition is described by Simon as satisfying decision making. That is, they satisfied the decision makers, sufficed enough for the organization to get. So it is a combination of satisfaction and sufficiency. Is a satisfying decision making. So decisions in the organizations are not optimal. They are boundedly rational. Organizational decisions are boundedly rational. So in the fourth question, in McGregor's view, the managerial cosmology meaningfully addresses the understanding of manager and his role perception. So in this question, you have to write about the idea of managerial cosmology. That is the key word here, managerial cosmology. And how this managerial cosmology changing the manager's role from authoritative to democratic participative approach. A transformation of the idea of management from authoritative decision making management to the participative decision making approach. So you have to start with meaning of the managerial cosmology. Then you should write about the need for transformation of the idea about the managing the people in the organization. So, in the introduction, you should tell the meaning of the managerial cosmology. Cosmology means universe. Cosmic energy, universal energy. Managerial cosmology means managerial universe. So, it deals with the managerial universe, deals with the science of the origin and development of the managerialism. So, just like the universe, how the universe has emerged through a big bang, and then it got developed, evolved over a period of time. Similarly, management is also supposed to evolve over a period of time. So, since we are talking about the McGregor's theory, McGregor's concept, the evolution of the managerialism should deal with a transformation, evolution from theory X to the theory Y. So, just like the universe is evolving over a period of time, managerial universe also is evolving over a period of time. From where? From the theory X style of management to theory Y style of management. So, then you have to write about the ideas of the theory X and theory Y. The theory X is fundamentally dealing with the autocratic style of management, and the theory Y dealing with the democratic style of management, when the management is based on these approaches. Usually we think that the theory X is a failed style of management and theory Y is a successful style of management. But in the managerial cosmology, nothing is a failure, nothing is a success. Just like the universe. Nothing will be success, nothing will be a failure. Success can be achieved either with the theory X or with the theory Y. Military organizations operate through the theory X style of management. Democratic governments operates through the something like parliament operates through the theory Y management. So success is adaptable in both the dimensions. And the fifth question, successful management leaders are found in Likert System 4 approach to organizational leadership. Example. So the hint of the question is, you should talk about the Rensis Likert's concept of System 4 and its implication to the organizational management. So here the key to the question is, you have to write about the first System 1 to 4 of the Rensis Likert. Then secondly, you should talk about the successful leadership under the System 4. How leadership will be successful. And then you have to write about leadership success is attributed to System 4 approach. Based on participative management, democratic management, a bottom-up approach to the management, psychological motivation, that is not merely the economic motivation. System 1 is based on the authoritative dimension. System 2 is based on the benevolent leadership. System 3 is based on the consultative management. System 4 is based on the democratic style of management. So this democratic participative management is characterized by the bottom-up management. That is taking the managerial decisions in consultation with the people at the bottom level. And it is insisting on the psychological motivation, not merely the economic motivators. Socio-psychological motivators are also important, like social relations in the organization, as well as appreciating the worker as a psychological motivator. And open channels of communication. Communication should not be restricted from bottom to the top. There should be communication from top to the bottom, that is from boss to the subordinates, from subordinate to the boss, and among the employees, and even to the informal network also. And there is a laissez-faire style of management. Laissez-faire style of management means free rein management. Free rein management is giving the employees opportunity to make the decisions by themselves. This is a free rein management. So not decision making by the manager or decision making in consultation with the employees. Decision making power, empowering the employees to make the decision by the employees themselves is the laissez-faire style of management. So just like a Panchayat Raj institution where the Sarpanch is given empowerment to make the decision by themselves rather than decisions made by the people at the state level and the central government level. Gram Sabha is another example of the free rein management. In the Gram Sabha, the people of the village themselves will make the decisions and they submit the decision to the upper level. So in the conclusion, you should say that success can be achieved either with system 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And the sixth question is Simon identifying decision making as the core field of public administration appears logically acceptable, but his positivist underpinning is problematic. Critically examine the statement. So this is one of the earlier previous questions. So where the key aspect, the hint of the question is about logical positivism. Logical positivism is the key concept in the question to be analyzed. What is that logical positivism? Logical positivism is all about taking the decisions in a logical steps, which is interdependent. There are 3 steps in making the decisions according to Simon. So you would have remembered that IDC, that is intelligence activity, development activity, and the choice activity. These 3 are the logically connected. And this conception of logical connectivity among the decision process is the logical positivism. And there is also another dimension. Simon identifying decision making as the core field of public administration. That is, decision making is administration. According to Simon, all administration is decision making. Because in the administration, what you are supposed to do is not doing the things, but making the things to be done. So you have to make the decision. Administration is decision making. So it appears logically acceptable, but the positivist underpinning is problematic. Critically examine. So this logical positivism of Simon should be critical aspects. There are certain critical aspects in his theory. So according to Simon, decision making is a core field of public administration because administration is the structure of the decision makers. Why it is a structure of the decision makers? Because at every level of the organization there are decision makers. Bottom level, middle level, and the higher level management. Everybody is making the decision, but the difference is the decision impact will differ from higher level to the lower level. That's all. Beyond that, there is no question of questionability of the decision making in the administration. Everybody is a decision maker. That is the structure of the decision makers. Decisions are made at all the levels of the organization. Only thing is, the impact of those decisions will be differing from one level to another level. Decisions made at the higher level will influence the entire organization. Middle level, the bottom level of the organization. Lower level decisions will confine only to the particular level. And decision making by a public administrator is characterized by procedure based on the intelligence, design, and choice activity. And choice is based on the facts and values. Facts and values will determine the rationality. So all the 3 dimensions are interconnected, they are intertwined, as in the logical positivism. The logical positivism also says the same thing. Every element in this cosmos will happen in a logical positivist approach. Nothing will happen accidentally. Every element in this cosmos will have connectivity with each other in this universe. If something is happening in the universe, everybody will be affected. So, rationality of the decision making in the public administration is characterized by bounded rationality and satisfying decisions, as we discussed in the earlier question. Rationality is limited because of various factors. Brain capacity to think is limited. Organizational culture is also limiting the rationality. And this, as a result, because of this bounded rationality, decision makers in the organization will end up with satisfying decisions, not satisfactory decisions. So, the positivist underpinning is imposed on the mind by the experience. So, decision making approach is based on the logical positivism, which combines the empiricism and the idea of observational evidence, and which is concerned with the enthusiasm with the rational decision making. So, this, however, because of this logical positivism, which we think that everything is logically connected, we end up with the heuristic thinking. And heuristic thinking means thinking based on the rule of thumb methods. Just because something has happened positively at a particular point of view, at a particular time, we take the decisions in the same procedure based on the previous experiences. Taking the decision based on the previous experience is called as a heuristic thinking. That will not be scientific ultimately. Heuristic decision making is not scientific. It is only a rule of thumb method of decision making. So therefore, this positivist approach is having its own issues. So that is the heuristic thinking approach. So finally, what you should say is, however, Simon's decision making ideology is based on the practical realities in the organizations, not scientific approaches. Scientific decision making is impossible. But however, scientific decision making is improved over a period of time through the standardization of processes. And the technology is also improving, contributing to the standardization and scientific decision making approach. And the seventh question, solitary and repetitive work done on a daily basis intensifies the tendencies towards pessimistic or paranoid meditation. And this, Mayo argues, is the single most important factor in the productive efficiency. Explain. So what is this solitary repetitive work done on a daily basis? That is routine work. The simple meaning of this sentence is routine work. Solitary, doing the things alone. And repetitive, doing the things repeatedly again and again on a daily basis. So in the this particular aspect is concluded by Elton Mayo in the textile mill experiment. In the textile mill experiment, workers were doing the solitary work and they are doing the repetitive work on a daily basis. Every day they are doing the same job. And what will happen with this? It will intensify the tendencies towards a pessimistic, that is losing the hope. Pessimism means not having the hope. Pessimistic or paranoid meditation. Paranoid meditation means losing the hope and thinking about depression. It's a kind of depression. If you are doing the things on a daily routine basis, suppose even in the preparation also, you lose your hope because it will build the depression for you. So, and this is being argued by Mayo as a single most important factor in the productive efficiency. That is, productive efficiency will decline if you make the employee to do the work on a continuous basis. So what you need is, as proved in the textile mill experiment, they were offered break time. 10 minutes break in the morning, 10 minutes break in the evening. And later on, they have also introduced some kind of refreshments. This has improved the interest in the job, interest in the work. If you are giving the breaks, interest in the work will improve. People will stop resigning the organization. Because continuously, if you are doing the job, you lose hope for the life. And you are not also having the opportunity to spend time with your family. They are forgetting their social evenings. So, the hint of the question is routinization results in losing hope and psychological depression. What is that routinization? Doing the things in a routine way on a daily basis. And as a result, you will be in a depression. So what those workers in the Philadelphia textile mill were doing, they were resigning from their job. So Mayo is not acceptable. Mayo is not accepting this kind of tendency. So therefore, repetitive work should be avoided, and there should be introduction of some break time, and the employees have to be given some refreshments. The employees should be consulted in making the decisions. So by making these changes, you are giving opportunity for the employees to communicate with each other, to build the social relations with each other, and they are also having the opportunity to enjoy their family life, and their need for consultation is also being fulfilled. Because when a management, when the boss is consulting you about a decision about yourself, you'll feel superior. You'll feel elated. So therefore, that will enhance the possibilities of interest in the job. So human relation theory opened up a new chapter in determining the productive efficiency by challenging the Rabel hypothesis. What is that Rabel hypothesis? David Ricardo concept of Rabel hypothesis implies that human being is an economic man. Rabel hypothesis stands for the tendency of treating the people as the economic man who works only for money and nothing else. But Rabel hypothesis is questioned by Elton Mayo, challenged by Elton Mayo, whereby man is proved not only as an economic man, worker is proved not only as an economic man, but also a psychological man, social man, political man, and also a family man. So everything it is. Then the 8th question, human relation theory, I think this is repeated. And 9th question, how far the values of the human relation approach are applicable to the startup organization? So the world around today, startup companies, startup organizations are the boom, are the trend. So human relation theory was developed in the 1920s after the First World War. And now we are in the 21st century, second decade, that is in the 2020s, 100 years later, where the organizations are not like the organizations that were existing in 1920s. In the West Electrical Company, there were almost 40,000 employees working in the same premises. Whereas in the startup companies, the organizational culture, work culture is completely different. So it is not necessary that in a startup company, all the employees would be working in the same premises. Startup companies are based on no employees, principle of no employees at all. West Electrical Company had 40,000 employees. Philadelphia Textile Mill had 21,000 employees. Whereas the startup company need not have any employees at all. Something like, as we were discussing in the earlier class about the quick service restaurant. A QSR like a Swiggy. It is not maintaining any employees. It is not holding any employees. It is not appointing any employees. Uber is not having any car. So when it is not having any car, it will not have any car driver. It is only providing the platform for communication between the service provider and service recipient. That's all. So you don't have to maintain any employees in the organization. Huge number of employees are not necessary. They are operating on the technology basis. Swiggy is not appointing any service provider. Swiggy is only offering the contractualism. It is operating on the principles of contractualism. So you don't have to maintain the staff in a huge level. The staff may be on a global level, working on the global level in the startup companies. But though they are working on the global level, you don't have to maintain the relations with those people. So Byju's is one such organization which is a startup company, and they are having almost 1 lakh employees around the country. And when they are having 1 lakh employees around the country working for the Byju's, none of them are having any possibility of interacting with each other, because they are working from across the globe, working from home through the technology usage. Zomato is another startup company in India which is engaging thousands of employees without actually appointing them. That is the nature of the startup company, and how human relation approach is useful to these organizations. So though when you are engaging the employees, even though on a contractual basis, you are supposed to maintain good relations with these people, though they are working on a contractual basis, on a peer-to-peer basis, because every individual is unique, and operation of the informal communication will exist. Though they don't have the opportunity to interact with each other in a formal way, informally they may be interacting with each other. And the presence of the informal organization within the formal one will definitely be there. Though it's a startup company and initiating company. And there should be a participative approach. Frequently they have to meet the employees, and the employees have to contribute their ideas to the management. This will be helpful to establish a democratic leadership and will fulfill the ego of the employees. The people, though they are working on a contractual basis. So therefore, even in the government of India, the government of India is trying to regularize and recognize the services of the startup company employees. The startup company employees who are working on a free space. And the startup organizations which are established as an entrepreneurial venture, they are the new business in the form of company. So they are characterized by the ambition, innovation, social scalability and the growth. Their growth will be phenomenal. So therefore, the startup organizations also should not ignore the significance of the human relations orientation. And when you are working on a outsourcing method, the company will not have any responsibility towards the employee. The employee who is serving the food to us is only an outsourcing person. But however, now the government of India has enacted a law even to provide regularization to these employees, to these people who are outsourcing their services, who are freelancing their services. So a freelancing regularization act is being made in the government of India as well, so that even their services are recognized by the organization. So that is the humanistic orientation brought even through the law. The humanitarian orientation is being brought through the legal system also. So there is a need for democratic style of management even in a startup company. That should be the concluding observation. And the 10th question, for Bernard, the executive work involves, I think this is also repeated, right? Work of maintaining the organization in operation. This is a repeated question. And the 11th question, because the rationality of the decision makers is so limited by the human brain and organizational culture, decisions, even this is also repeated, right? Yeah, there is a 2022 question. Every human organization shall start from system 1 and ultimately end up with system 4. 12th question. Comment on the Likert statement. This is a question asked in the 2022 paper. So Rensis Likert has proposed this concept of system 1 to 4 management. And he says that human organization is established with the system 1 approach, that is autocratic style of management, and gradually transforming to the system 4, that is democratic style of management. And in between there will be a benevolent and consultative style of management. So where you have to write about the features of each of these 4 styles of management. So the management style, system 1 is exploitative, authoritative leadership style, where the manager has no confidence or the trust in the employee, and subordinates feel no freedom to discuss things about the job with their superior in solving the job related problems. So the communication would be only one way, that is bottom to the top. So from top to the bottom, decision making will be unilateral by the management. Communication is only downwards. Only downward communication will be there. Upward communication will not be insisted. Motivation is characterized only by the economic motivators, not anything else. Anything else means social and psychological motivators are not insisted. And in the system 2, there is improvised system of managing the people through benevolent autocratic style of leadership. Benevolent management. So in the benevolent autocratic style of management, decisions are made by the manager, but having concern for the subordinates. Communication is also one way, top to down, but sometimes he may allow the feedback also. In the autocratic style, no feedback at all. And in the benevolent style, there may be a possibility of allowing the feedback. That is the communication. And the style of motivation is economic oriented, ultimately economic oriented, like autocratic style. But however, The additional economic consideration will also be there with a benevolent orientation. So this is a carrot and stick approach to the management. While system 1 is only stick approach to the management, the system 2 is a carrot and stick approach to the management, permits upward communication, solicits some ideas and opinion from the subordinate, allows some delegation of decision making, but with close policy control. Ultimate control will be retained by the manager. Then system 3 is the consultative leadership style. The consultative leadership style indicates that manager has substantial but not complete confidence So there is no complete confidence in the subordinate. The manager will consult the subordinate in making the decision, but ultimate decision will be made by manager only. Communication is two-way. Top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Two-way communication will be there. Motivation would be both economic motivation as well as social motivation with the sociological factors like promoting the human relations. Style of supervision is transformation from fault rectification to fault, transformation from fault identification to fault rectification. Fault rectifying style of management supervision will be done. That is the consultative leadership style. Then finally there is a style 4 management, that is system 4 management, democratic participative leadership. So in the democratic participative style of leadership, it's a laissez-faire style of leadership. Laissez-faire style of leadership means management empowering the subordinate to make the decisions. Management empowering the subordinate to make the decisions by themselves. So in the system 1, decisions are exclusively made by the boss. System 2 also decisions made by the boss. In the system 3, decisions made by the boss, but in consultation takes the opinion of the subordinate. But in the system 4, management will empower the subordinates to make the decision by themselves. That is the laissez-faire style of management. Here the motivation is based on economic factors, social factors, as well as psychological factors. Multi-pronged approach to the motivation is adopted. Not merely any one thing. All the possibilities of the motivation were given. So this is the participative kind of approach to the management. Employees are participating directly in the management to make the decisions. So suppose this is a style of management that is kind of organizations in various countries. Most legislated form of management is the democratic participative style. Most legislated form means most of the countries have made the laws also to ensure that the employees in the organization will be part of the decision making process. Something like suppose in the RTC, in the Road Transport Corporation, there will be a board of directors. Board of directors includes workers' representatives. So the workers' representatives would be participating in the decision making related to the organization as a whole. So without their approval, decisions will not be made. Same is the case with the Damodar Valley Corporation, suppose. In the Damodar Valley Corporation, the people who are getting affected, their representatives are also a part of the decision making. And so in most of the countries are doing this kind of representative participation, legislated form of representative participation. Legislated means laws are enacted exclusively to ensure that the organization will give the representation to the employees. And in the present century, in the present organizations, employees are represented. Employees are represented by even by the process of giving shares to the employees through the stock option plan. Stock option plan means some of the shares of the organization are given to the employees. So they will have the good, they are buying the good, they promote the goodwill of the company and they stick to the organization for a long time. So this is ESOP, this is known as the ESOP concept. What is that ESOP? Employee stock option plan. When the employees are given the stocks of the company, they become the shareholders of the company. They are not merely treated as employees, they become the shareholders. When they become the shareholders, they will be the management. So directly participating in the decision making of the company. So therefore, which is the most successful style of management? Any style of management is successful. We cannot conclude that only one style of management is suitable to the organization, but every organization, when it is established, it would be with the system 1 style of management. Then gradually transforms to the system 4. Then Bernard posits the zone of indifference as the human condition that animates authority relationships and cooperation in the modern organization. Examine. This is also a 2022 question. So positing, what is positing? Proposing. Giving the idea is positing. The idea of zone of indifference as the human condition. What is this human condition? The attitude of the human being. Every human being will have this psychological tendency of human zone of indifference, and that animates authority relationships. What is animating? Creating the activity. Some activating the things is animating. And authority relation. What is being animated? Authority relationship. What is the authority relationship? Is characterized by relationship in the authority is the person who is holding the authority and the person who is accepting the authority. The person who is giving the orders and the person who is receiving the orders. See, in simple, it is superior and the subordinate. So these authority relationships in the cooperation in the organization are determined by the zone of indifference, is the simple meaning of the question. So this question meaning is the authority relationship, person giving the order, receiving the order. And cooperation. Cooperation means employees cooperating to obey the orders, implement the goals of the organization. That is determined by the zone of indifference, psychological attitude of the employee. So Bernard proposed the idea of zone of indifference, which implies that it's a psychological condition of the employee. So the psychological condition of the employee in which they accept the commands unquestionably. We should have a tendency to obey the commands of the boss. Usually, parents shows the authoritarianism. Teachers shows authoritarianism in the Indian culture or in the in general in the Asian culture and African culture, Latin American culture. In the Asian, African and the Latin American cultures, fundamental tendency is parents and the teacher shows the authoritarianism. But children will not negate it, will not deny that. They are obedient to the authoritarian character of the parents and the teachers, or the elders, and even the elders. So this is because the culture has made the people to think as such. They're psychologically ready. The people are psychologically ready to obey the dominance in the authority relationship. So psychologically you have created a condition in which you programmed yourself. It is a kind of programming the brain. You programmed yourself to obey the orders given by the boss, superiors, parents, teachers. So we don't usually even lodge complaint against the boss, even if the boss is behaving wrongly. If the boss suppose committing to kind of sexual harassment of the women employee, usually female employees will not lodge complaint against the boss. Is because it is the tendency of acceptance of the domination. The culture has programmed the minds of the people as such. So your zone of indifference means you are indifferent to the orders given by the boss. Indifferent means you either will not accept or you will not, nor you will not reject it. And you will be in a state of neutrality, in a mode of neutrality. This is a tendency, it is a psychological condition whereby you unquestionably accept the commands. Suppose when a child is being kidnapped and the child is made to be a beggar, and the child will have the opportunity to escape, but the child will not escape because he is habituated to obey the commands of the kidnapper. Same is the case with the prostitution also. Women trafficking as well. Even in the women trafficking also, that the women who is made to be a prostitute, a sex worker, today we should call it as a sex worker. Though that sex worker is having opportunity to defy these possibilities, but she will not defy it because her zone of indifference, her psychological status is programmed in such a way that she will continue to exist in the same kind of states. If you look at the story of Gangubai, the same thing has happened. Her mind is being, programmed to continue in the same kind of activity. So her zone of indifference is made to think only from that point of view. Though she has the opportunity to escape, she did not, and she never. So that is the kind of things that happens in the zone of indifference, where you unquestionably accept whatever the orders given by the management. But you have to fulfill certain things to make the orders acceptable. What you have to do? The orders should be given intelligibly. What is the intelligibility? Understood. You should give the orders in a way that is understood by the subordinate. Suppose during the Islamic rule, women from India are being kidnapped by the Iran, or the people from the Iraq, or from the people from the Afghanistan. They continue to be there. And of course, even today also, we don't know that people from the Kerala or various other states in the country, they're being taken to Iran and Iraq in the name of love jihad or other things, other practices. But they are not returning. They are not trying to return back home. And similarly, the British have taken away the men from India during the British rule. The British people or other European people have taken away the men from India or from various other parts of the world as well, particularly from Africa. They made their slaves. So they did not oppose the slavery, because this slavery would not have been would have been questioned if the orders given by them were not understood by them. And if the orders have to be organizationally compatible. That is, you should not give any orders that is violating the interest of the organization. Personally inconsistent. Should not give any orders which are inconsistent with the personal interest. Organizational bosses have to give the orders consistent with the personal interest of the employee. And they should be feasible. Feasibility means physically and psychologically carryable. If you give any order beyond the physical and psychological capability of an individual, they cannot be carried out. So if the management takes pain to give the orders within these four conditions of intelligibility, organizational compatibility, and personal consistency and feasibility, then the manager can penetrate into the zone of indifference of the employees. When you could able to penetrate into the zone of indifference of the employees, means you are penetrating into the minds of the employees. When you are penetrating into the mind of the employees, you are able to control the mind. When you are controlling the mind, means you are programming the mind. So this programmability of the mind is done through the zone of indifference. So because there is always a possibility that the subordinate may deny your order. How the subordinate may deny your order? Because the subordinate may quit the organization. If you are giving the order and if it is not compatible with these four conditions, subordinate may quit the organization. He may resign. He may go on strike. The worker may slow down the job. That is working slowly and nominally, minimally, literally. Performing minimally, literally means just for the namesake. Mechanically, he will be doing the job. And he is also having the ability and power not to do at all. If the job is not being done by the employee, manager cannot do anything. Before the entry of Elton Mayo, what was happening in the textile mill, Philadelphia textile mill, is all these things were happening. Either they are quitting, they are striking, or they are slowing down the work, they are performing minimally, literally, and they are not performing at all. So because of these powers, that the management has to take the pain to make the subordinate accept the commands. To make them accept the commands, the command has to be understood. It should be within the compatibility of the organizational requirements, compatible to the individual requirement, and feasible to be performed physically and psychologically, ready to perform psychologically also. So thus the effectiveness of the formal authority in the organization is lost, and in fact it is declining. So informality is increasing and enhancing. Then 14th question, participative management. Positive management is the positive management in the organization. Explain the required to ensure what is required to ensure the participative management. Explain the requirements to ensure participative management. That is the preconditions. Requirements are the preconditions. And they should be explained in the context of peer learning and reverse coaching. The peer learning and reverse coaching are the practices of management, participative management of the contemporary world. Peer learning, reverse coaching. So where you have to talk about the positive aspect of the participative management. Positive aspects of the participative management means advantages. So participative management will recognize the talents of the employees. It will improve the motivation. It will enhance the morale of the employees. And employee engagement is also improved. But however, there is a need for certain conditions to establish the participative management. So what are the conditions to establish the participative management? That there should be an open communication system. Without creating an open access of communication to the subordinate to the superior, you cannot make the employees participate. And you should respect for others. You should have the respect for others. There is a decent management style. Decent management style means when the boss is consulting the subordinate, it is not the inefficiency of the boss. But in a third world countries, the people think that if the boss is consulting the subordinate, it is the inefficiency of the superior. It's an indecent behavior of the management culture. So management has to create a decent managerial culture. What is the decent managerial culture? A mutual respect for each other. When boss respects the subordinate, equally the onus relies upon the subordinate also to respect the management as well. Without this respect from the subordinate, there is no question of ensuring the success of the participative management. Because when the boss is respecting the subordinate disrespecting the manager, superior, then one day the manager will stop consulting the subordinate if there is a disrespect. So a decent culture, decent managerial culture is required. And there should be a spirit of collaboration through the methods like peer learning and reverse coaching. How to make the people? It is participative management in the today's organization, in the contemporary organization, is not merely subordinates participating in the decision making of the superior. It is not merely submissiveness of the subordinate to the superior. It is also reverse. Submissiveness of the superior to the subordinate also, to learn something new. So peer learning means employees learning from among themselves with the consultation with each other. So that is a peer learning. It is a situation where the peers, that is colleagues, peers are the colleagues, support each other in increasing in learning process. So because the organizational management today is based on the technology, new technologies. You need to use these new technologies, and the technical details of the new technologies may not be known to the boss. A colleague will have better idea about the technicalities of a job to be done. So what you are doing is, very frequently you are not going to the superior. Suppose even the students also do the same thing. Peer learning is a general practice. For everything they don't approach the master, the teacher, if they have any doubts. Most often they clarify their doubts among each other. That is known as the peer learning. And the same thing will happen in the organizations also. Second concept is reverse coaching. Reverse coaching is nothing but reverse, is also known as the reverse mentoring. What is that reverse mentoring? Usually we know about the mentoring, whereby the superior will be the master and subordinate will be the learner. But in the age of new technologies, superior may not have the technological knowledge of the technology, whereas the subordinate may have the knowledge of the technology. Suppose social media. Most often we see that our parents will be learning about the social media operation from their children. Generally, earlier, children will be learning the lessons from the parents. Today, parents are learning the lessons of social media from the children. That is the most routine thing that is happening. Same is the case in the organizations also, whereby superior officers, superior employees are learning the social media operation from their subordinates. So because the technology is improving, organizations are supposed to create this circular participative management, not merely vertical participative management. Need for a circular participative management. What is that circular participative management or vertical participative management? Vertical participative management means from superior to subordinate, subordinate to superior. Circular means everybody in the organization will be made to participate in the organizational decision making on a comprehensive level. So organizations are increasingly depending on the participative management, not only from the top down, but also from the horizontal and bottom up approach, which is described as the circular participation. And the 15th question, with increasing standardization, preference for program decision is increasing. Comment, statement of the Simon. As a standardization, what is standardization? The hint of the answer is, question is standard. Standardization resulting in the program decision making more and more. So standardization is achieved by rules and regulations, managerial culture, creating a systematic managerial culture. Managerial culture means how the employees have to work, which is also described as the work culture. The work culture concept that you study in the ethics also. Creating certain standards in the organization for doing the things. And with the introduction of the more machines in the organizations, also the programming decisions is also improving. Introduction of the machines in the organization is increasing the programming, because it is increasing the standardization of decision making. Every time you don't have to look for the new opportunities, new procedures to make the decisions. When the machine is in a position to take the decision, you don't have to think about decision making. Programmed decisions are standard decisions. Non-programmed decisions are creative decisions. There should be actually more creative decisions with recognition of the humanity. But as the technology is developing, we are shifting our decision making from humanity to human beings to machine learning. So today we are also saying this machine is also learning, which is described as the machine learning. A robot is learning the things, the robot is creatively thinking, and artificial intelligence is contributing to it. So as the technology is increasing, standardization is also increasing. Standardization enables the program decision making. People have more preference for the program decisions, and this tendency is known as the Gresham's law of planning. So Gresham is an economist who proposed the law of planning, and which is based on the idea that bad money drives away the good money. Bad money driving away the good money means bad money is a fake currency, counterfeit currency. Over a period of time, as the counterfeit currency increases, people start thinking the original currency as the fake and fake currency as the original. And Simon is comparing the bad currency with the programmed decisions, good currency with the non-programmed decisions. So programmed decisions are actually good because they make the things rational. So they are based on the rules, office manuals, artificial intelligence, computers, robotics, and any other standardization practices. So the non-programmed decisions are the unique situations, based on the unique situation which are made by the human beings. And we were discussing in the last class about the decision support system. Decision support system is programming the decision making process with the computers. You don't have to have a cashier for delivering the money in a bank. You just need a machine to deliver the money, to deliver the cash to a customer. And we are describing it as a ATM machine. The ATM machine is doing what the human being was doing in the name of cashier. Today there is no need for the cashier in the banks because the machine is doing all this job. So it is taking the decision through the machine learning, through the programming. So more perfection and accuracy would be possible. More perfection and accuracy would be possible in doing the job. That is where this is known as the decision support system. Decisions to be made by the human beings are supported by the machines in a decision support system. So therefore, non-programmed decisions are a kind of unique decisions. Usually managers at the higher levels, managers are exposed to the non-routine conditions will make the non-programmed decisions. But even what the decision that would be made in the unique situations are also programmed today. And with the introduction of the new machine learning concepts, this is made more possible. So suppose when generally it is the tendency of the human being to routinize the things. Routinizing the things is necessary to standardize the things. Standardization is necessary to minimize our physical effort and psychological effort also. Not only the physical effort, but also the psychological effort. We wanted to do less job, both physically as well as psychologically. Because human beings are inventing new things since the emergence of the civilization. And every time when the new transformation is coming up, it is only to make the life more comfortable. Physical comfort as well as psychological comforts we are looking for. So therefore, organizations would be generally having a tendency to standardize the things. This will be helpful to minimize the human labor also. And because the machines will do those jobs, more standardization means minimum efforts to do the things. More standardization implies more accuracy in doing the things. So therefore what happens is, though Simon is considering non-programmed decisions as the good decisions, a day will come where the bad decisions, programmed decisions will replace the non-programmed decisions completely, at least to the maximum extent. So as Grisham's law of money is saying, bad money will drive away the good money. Similarly, programmed decision will drive away the what you call as non-programmed decisions. So you try to answer these questions. And next week we discuss administrative behavior. Administrative behavior.